Once upon a time, a farmer had a loyal dog named Sultan. He was a good dog, but now he was old. His teeth had all fallen out, and he couldn't grip things like he used to. One sunny afternoon, the farmer stood with his wife by the front door. He looked over at Sultan and said, "Tomorrow, I'm going to shoot Old Sultan. He's no use to us anymore." His wife felt a pang of pity for the faithful animal. "But he served us for so many years," she pleaded. "He's been so loyal. Surely we can afford to feed him for the rest of his days." "What are you talking about?" The farmer scoffed. "You're not thinking straight. He doesn't have a single tooth left. Not even the quietest thief would be scared of him. It's time for him to go. He served us, sure, but he got good meals for it." Poor Sultan was lying in the sun nearby, and he heard every single word. His heart sank. He couldn't believe that tomorrow would be his last day. Feeling desperate, he remembered his good friend, the wolf. That evening, as dusk settled, Sultan limped into the forest to find him. He poured out his heart, telling the wolf about the terrible fate that awaited him. The wolf listened patiently. Now, my old friend," he said softly, "don't you worry. I'll help you out of this mess. I've already got an idea." The wolf leaned in closer. "Tomorrow morning, your master and his wife are going to the fields to make hay. They'll take their little child with them, since no one will be home. During their work, they always lay the child in the shade under a hedge. You go and lie down next to the child, just like you're guarding it." "Then what?" asked Sultan, his tail giving a hopeful twitch. "Then," the wolf continued, a glint in his eye, "I'll come running out of the woods and snatch the child. You have to chase after me, barking and running as fast as you can, as if you're trying to rescue the baby. I'll let the child go, and you'll carry it back to its parents. They'll think you're a hero. They'll be so grateful. They won't dream of hurting you. In fact, you'll be their favorite. They'll make sure you never want for anything again." Sultan thought it was a brilliant plan. The next morning, everything happened just as the wolf had described. The farmer and his wife went to the hayfield, placing their baby in the shade of the hedge. Old Sultan lay down beside the child, pretending to be on guard. Suddenly, a wolf shot out from the edge of the forest and grabbed the baby. The father screamed in terror, but just as quickly, Old Sultan sprang into action. He chased after the wolf with all his might, barking furiously. As planned, the wolf dropped the child, and Sultan gently picked the baby up and carried it safely back to his master. The farmer was overcome with joy and relief. He stroked Sultan's head, his voice thick with emotion. "Old Sultan, you brave dog! Not a hair on your head will be harmed. You shall eat from my table for free as long as you live." He then turned to his wife and said, "Go home right now and make Sultan some soft bread soup, something he won't have to bite, and bring the pillow from my bed. He deserves to sleep in comfort." From that day on, Old Sultan lived a life of luxury. He had the softest bed, the best food, and all the affection a dog could ever want. A little while later, the wolf came to visit. He was delighted to see how well their plan had worked. The wolf said with a grin, "Since I helped you out, you won't mind looking the other way if I happen to ... borrow one of your master's fat sheep, will you?" Sultan's ears flattened against his head. "Don't even think about it," he answered firmly. "I will always be loyal to my master." "I can't agree to that." The wolf just laughed, thinking Sultan couldn't possibly be serious. That night, under the cover of darkness, he snuck back towards the farm, planning to steal a sheep. But faithful Sultan had already warned the farmer about the wolf's intentions. As the wolf crept into the sheep pen, the farmer was waiting. He caught the wolf and gave him a thorough beating with a heavy flail. The wolf managed to escape, but as he ran off, he howled back at the dog. "You'll pay for this, you scoundrel. Just you wait." The very next morning, the wolf sent a wild boar with a message for Sultan. The boar challenged the dog to a duel in the forest to settle their score. Poor Old Sultan was in a bind. Who could he possibly find to be his second in a fight? The only creature who would help him was a three-legged cat. As Sultan and the cat headed towards the forest, the cat limped along awkwardly. In pain, she held her tail stretched high up in the air. The wolf and the boar were already waiting for them. From a distance, they saw the strange pair approaching. They mistook the cat's raised tail for a sharp sword she was carrying. And every time the poor cat hopped on her three legs, they thought she was picking up a rock to throw. This sight filled them with terror. "This is a bad idea." The boar squealed, and he dove into a pile of leaves to hide. The wolf, equally frightened, scrambled up the nearest tree. When Sultan and the cat arrived, they looked around, confused. Where were their opponents? Sultan sniffed the ground. The cat looked around, and she spotted something peeking out from the leaf pile. Thinking it was a mouse, she pounced on it with a sharp bite and scratch. It was the boar's ear. He let out a terrible squeal and ran for his life, shouting, "The real monster is up in the tree." Sultan and the cat looked up. There, perched on a high branch, was the wolf, trembling with fear. Old Sultan looked at him and felt a mix of pity and disappointment. He called up, "Come down, you coward." But the wolf was too ashamed to face the dog he had betrayed. He had tried to turn Sultan against his master and then threatened him, all because of his own greed. He had completely underestimated the old dog's loyalty. Defeated and humiliated, the wolf stayed in the tree until he was sure Sultan and the cat were long gone. From that day on, no one ever bothered Old Sultan again. He lived out the rest of his days in peace and comfort, loved by his family, a true testament to the power of loyalty and cleverness. And he never forgot the strange day when he and a three-legged cat managed to scare off a wolf and a wild boar. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales. See you next time. Have you ever felt unappreciated, like all your hard work and loyalty meant nothing? Well, meet Old Sultan, a faithful dog who's given his entire life to his master. But now, he's old, his teeth are gone, and his master has decided he's no longer useful. The farmer tells his wife, "Tomorrow, I'm getting rid of Old Sultan. He can't guard the house anymore. This is heartbreaking, right? Sultan overhears this, and his world comes crashing down. He feels betrayed and worthless. All those years of dedicated service just to be cast aside like an old shoe, lying under a tree filled with despair. Sultan is visited by a surprising guest, a wolf from the forest. The wolf, seeing Sultan's sadness, asks what's wrong. Sultan explains his terrible situation. The wolf, who you'd think would be an enemy, actually comes up with a clever plan. He says, "Listen, tomorrow your master is going out to make hay with his wife. They'll bring their baby with them. I'll sneak out of the woods, snatch the baby, and run. You pretend to chase me, rescue the baby, and bring it back. Your master will be so grateful. He'll treat you like a king for the rest of your life." Sultan thinks it's a brilliant idea. A desperate situation calls for a desperate and very clever measure. The next day, everything unfolds just as the wolf planned. The farmer and his wife are in the fields, their baby sleeping peacefully in the shade. Suddenly, the wolf darts out, grabs the baby's cradle, and dashes back towards the forest. Parents scream in terror. But just as quickly, Old Sultan springs into action. He chases the wolf with all his might, catches up, and gently brings the baby back to his frantic parents. The farmer is overjoyed and overwhelmed with gratitude. He hugs Sultan, saying, "You saved our child. You will live with us in comfort forever. You'll eat the best food and want for nothing." Sultan's plan worked perfectly. He's not just a pet anymore. He's a hero. After this dramatic rescue, Sultan is living the good life. He has a soft bed, delicious food, and all the love he could ever want. Soon, the wolf comes to visit, happy to see his friend doing so well. But then, the wolf presents a tricky request. He says, "Hey, pal, you owe me one. How about you just look the other way while I sneak in and grab one of your master's fat sheep?" This puts Sultan in a tough spot. He's grateful to the wolf, but his loyalty to his master is unshakable. Sultan firmly replies, "No way. I will always be true to my master." Can't agree to that. The wolf doesn't believe him. He thinks Sultan is just putting on a show. So, that night, under the cover of darkness, the wolf creeps towards the sheep pen, ready for an easy meal. But he's made a huge mistake. The faithful Sultan had already warned his master about the wolf's plan. As the wolf tries to snatch a sheep, the farmer is waiting for him. He ambushes the wolf and gives him a serious beating with a heavy flail. The wolf barely escapes, limping away and vowing revenge. He shouts back at the dog, "You'll pay for this, you scoundrel." The very next morning, the furious wolf sends a messenger to Sultan, a wild boar. The boar delivers a challenge. The wolf wants to meet Sultan in the forest to settle the score once and for all. A duel. Now, Sultan is in real trouble. He's an old dog and facing a strong, angry wolf and his fierce friend. The boar sounds like a suicide mission. He searches desperately for someone to back him up, an ally for the fight. But who would help an old dog against two powerful forest beasts? The only one he can find is a three-legged cat, Yes, a cat with only 3 legs. It's not exactly an army, is it? So, the unlikely pair heads into the forest. Old Sultan, ready for a fight he probably can't win, and his only companion, a poor cat, limping along on her 3 legs. To make matters worse, the cat is in pain, so she's holding her tail straight up in the air as she walks. Meanwhile, the wolf and the boar are already at the meeting spot, waiting impatiently. As they see Sultan and the cat approaching from a distance, their imaginations run wild. They see the cat's tail held high and stiff, and they mistake it for a deadly sabre, a sword that Sultan is bringing to the fight. And it gets even funnier. Every time the cat hops on her 3 legs, the wolf and the boar think she is bending down to pick up a stone to throw at them. Suddenly, these 2 big, tough forest bullies are terrified. They're not facing an old dog. In their minds, they're facing a heavily armed warrior with a rock-throwing sidekick. Panic sets in. The wild boar, squealing in fear, dives into a nearby thicket of bushes to hide. The wolf, not wanting to be left behind, scrambles up the nearest tree as fast as he can. Their courage has completely vanished. When Sultan and the 3-legged cat finally arrive at the spot, they're confused. Where did everyone go? The clearing is empty. They look around, wondering if the challenge was just a joke. The wild boar, however, hadn't done a very good job of hiding. He was buried in the undergrowth, but one of his ears was sticking out. The cat, being a cat, is naturally curious and always on the lookout for mice. While she's scanning the area, the boar twitches his ear nervously. The cat sees the movement and thinks, "Aha, a mouse." Without a second thought, she pounces on the ear and bites down hard. The wild boar lets out a terrifying, deafening squeal of pain and shoots out of the bushes like a rocket, running for his life. As he flees, he screams, "The real culprit is up in the tree. The one you want is up in the tree." The dog and the cat, startled by the noise, look up. And there, perched on a branch, is the wolf. He looks incredibly embarrassed and ashamed. He, the big bad wolf, was so frightened by a 3-legged cat and an old dog that he climbed a tree to hide. Seeing how utterly foolish he's been, and realizing Sultan's cleverness and loyalty, the wolf feels a change of heart. He climbs down from the tree, not with anger, but with a new respect for the old dog. He apologizes for his behavior and for underestimating him. In a strange and wonderful twist, the wolf and the dog, former enemies, put their differences aside and become friends. And so Old Sultan not only saved his own life and proved his worth, but he also showed that true strength isn't always about size or power, but about loyalty, cleverness, and the courage to stand up for what's right, even with a 3-legged cat by your side. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this classic tale of wits and unexpected friendship, okay? If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. See you next time.